We're going to get started here. Again, thank you guys so much for being here this evening. I'm really excited about this town hall. Again, topic is affordability, housing, the job market, especially for, students that we have here at the University of Arizona, but really anyone in our community. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Madison, and I am the Deputy Executive Director here at the Pima County Democratic Party. We have Chairman Eric Robbins here on the call with us as well. We also have Alex Kack, who is the Executive Director here at PCDP. And then I'm going to actually call on Rahel, who is the president of the University of Arizona College Democrats. If you want to just introduce yourself really quick, and then we can start with our speakers. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Rahel. I'm the president of UA College Democrats. We're so thankful to PCDP for co-hosting this event with us. One thing we hear on campus every single day when we're out there is that affordability and the cost of living is on the minds of every college student. So prices of tuition, prices of groceries, prices of buying a house are way too high, and young folks cannot afford to live today the way others could 10, 15 years ago. And we're so excited that you guys are here to speak with us about this. This is an issue that we care passionately about, and we're so happy that you guys share that with us and are willing to work with us to help us and yourselves, because honestly, everyone's facing an affordability crisis, get the opportunity to have better costs in this world. So thank you.
Thank you, Rahel. Councilman Cunningham, I saw that you hopped on. If you wanted to unmute yourself and just tell us a bit about, what you're working on at the office, just talk about housing and affordability a bit, that would be amazing.
Hi, everyone. How's everybody doing? I just wanted to let everyone know that we've worked in the housing side of things the last probably since I took over for office for the last 15 years. But the housing crisis really became at the forefront after we got out of COVID. And we saw this incredible crunch. I think it was a perfect storm of well-intended by our party, some poor policies put forth by the Republican Party, and some economic drivers that I don't think anybody could really expect. So as a result, with the housing shortage, the housing shortage that we have is on so many levels wide. In other words, it doesn't affect people of one group or of one economic level. It actually goes way wide across the spectrum. We have folks that are in their 50s and 60s with jobs who are unhoused. We have folks that are suffering addiction who are underhoused or unhoused. We have folks that are working two jobs that are unhoused in their 20s without kids, seniors. It's such a wide net. And one of the reasons is that there's quite a bit of issues where there isn't anything affordable. I'm going to tell a story if you'll indulge me. When I was 20, I was working the graveyard shift at Circle K on First Avenue in Arizona. It was a pretty gnarly place, but it was a job, man, and it was fun. It was all right. Anyway, I had an apartment on Indian House Road and 7th Avenue near Phoenix Community College, where I attended school. And my roommate, he was the cook at Hooters, and we got kicked out for music too loud. And I didn't know what to do, and I did not want to tell my parents what happened. So we went to the Y. The YMCA had a spot for guys like us with no credit history and stuff, where we could take a place. I think it was $85 for the room for both of us a week, so $42.50 a week, and we got to live there. And we stayed there for a few months, saved up, and eventually another place. That's a gap in our service. I have that alternative right now. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist in Tucson. So that's part of it. We also have a situation where there's a culture among landlords where they put profit over people. So the landlord business is a people business. Later on in life, I became a landlord. I can tell you that I have never evicted anybody, ever. 17 years I've had rentals, and we haven't evicted anybody. We don't even turn over more than 1 unit a year on 25 units. Because if you know what you're doing, you understand that a tenant landlord relationship is a people relationship. It's not a profit relationship. But we have some landlords who don't understand that. And there's a culture to raise the rents. There's a culture to turn tenants over. And again, there's also a culture in which realtors who represented buyers were incentivized to drive the house price up, so that buyers paid more for homes. Those are things that happened that were kind of beyond our control. The last piece is, and this is kind of the unpopular thing I'll say, inflation hit us hard with, definitely hit us hard, and even in rentals it hit us hard. Unfortunately, part of that was we might have gone too fast in driving the living wage up without some parameters like rent control to accompany it. So while I totally agree that people should make what they're worth, we need to have it so that it doesn't, if you get somebody a better wage, we can't have their costs go up 3 times while their wage goes up. So we have to have some parameters. I'd tell you on the wide spectrum, our best option for rent control, which is a state law, the only way to override that is through initiative. But we could run an initiative that would allow municipalities to set rent limits related to some type of rental tax, and they'd have to follow it. I'd say that's a call for action that I believe in. On the other side, what we're doing in my office is we have 2 programs, 3. One of them we shut down a while ago, but we gave it kind of a try, and we're going to tweak it and bring it back. So the first one we did was we hired a housing outreach coordinator, and she went from camp to camp over a long period of time and engaged folks that were unhoused and tried to engage them into services, job counseling, mental health services, addiction services, if that was what was needed, but at least get what to our system so we could put people along. We're the only office that had that position. The other thing we did is we set up the community service program, and that's kind of an offshoot from the housing coordinator. So we have a program now where unhoused folks and folks in our housing system, in our shelter system, can make daily wages. So we're facilitating that out of my office as well. The third program we set up was a safe park for RVs, an alternative where RV parking could be done at a discount and somewhat publicly subsidized. There's a lot of nuance to that, so we'll probably have to make some tweaks to that program. But again, we have to have a system where folks can get a position. And I'll say a couple things about that. Right now, does anybody know what the maximum SSI payment or the minimum SSDI payment is? It's $967 a month. If you don't have children, you get $967 a month, which about 37% of SSI and SSDI recipients get. That's like it's almost like 7 million people nationwide. That's all they get. They do qualify for food stamps at $106. So their total gross take home is $1,024. The rule of thumb, including your utilities, is max. You shouldn't pay more than 40% on your net every month. So no more than $409 should be their rent, including water, including electricity, including gas, including internet, including cell phone. That should be their total cost. We do not have a program that exists that allows someone on SSDI or SSI who is receiving money and gets penalized if they take extra money, where they can rent a place for that cost. And those are the things that plague us. Those are the gaps that exist in this system. My office works every single day to try to identify those gaps, identify resources to plug those gaps, and then implement programs to do it. Our newest program is called Housing Assisted and Urban Strength. That's a program where we act as for working families and working individuals who are earning wages but can't seem to get an apartment. And what happens is that we find a person and we get them off the street and we get them through rehab and we get them through their 90 meetings in 90 days. That's post RTC. For some of you guys who've never done recovery, after you get out of rehab, that's the most important time, man. You've got to go and work your program. There's different programs out there, but the most important is the 90 days after. And hopefully some of you are young enough that you're never going to be in that position. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but if you ever are, just remember, you heard it here first. If you go to rehab, when you get out, you've got to work your program for like at least 10 to 12 weeks. So the 90 meetings in 90 days. So we get these folks going, they got a job. And what happens? They have to get an apartment and get out of shelter. And they have a 24-hour a week job at $15 an hour. They're taking home about $321 a week. And they're expected to go get an apartment, which requires a $750 to $800 deposit, $800 for the first month and $800 for the last month. Not only that, it's very likely that that person owes a debt on an old electric bill or water bill or gas bill. So my office has initiated a program which helps them forgive their water bill, pays their internet for a year, which is only like $100 because Cox hooked us up with a sweet deal. Settles their TEP bill and acts as a voucher for the landlord, where if they are evicted, we'll cover the deposit, but we don't have to lay out cash for it. We plan to place 40 families into apartments this year through that program. We think it's a program that fills one of those gaps. So as we keep trying to identify gaps, those are those little victories. But ultimately, like on a grand policy, we have to remember that the Arizona State Constitution allows us the people to make initiatives and override the legislature. It's one of the reasons why we got minimum wage. So the next thing we have to go through for, in my opinion, is rent control. Thanks for letting me speak today, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Councilman. I really appreciate that. And it's really great to hear about all the hard work you guys are doing in your office. I wanted to move on to our other speaker, Nick, before we start the question segment. So Nick is from the Tucson Tenants Union here in Tucson, of course. If you wanted to unmute and tell us a little bit about your organization, what you're working on, and just kind of who you are and what your background is, that would be amazing. And like I put in the chat, if you guys have any questions or comments or anything during the speaker's time, please put it in the chat. But also know that after Nick speaks, we will just kind of open the floor for any comments, for people to share their stories, concerns, anything like that. So Nick, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you very much and appreciate y'all having me on here. Just a kind of mic check. Can y'all hear me okay? Because I'm outside and it's a little windy. Okay, great. So yeah, my name is Nick Bruno. I'm a Tucson Tenants Union member. And so, yeah, I guess I really appreciate hearing Representative Cunningham or Mr. Cunningham talking about, wanting to, prioritize pushing on for rent control or, first repealing the rent control preemption and then pushing for that, through a statewide initiative. Because that's something that is, one of our strategic objectives in the tenants union is, rent control as well as social housing. And what really kind of like to kind of get a background on it, how many college students are on the call right now? If you could just like do like an emoji react or raise your hand or shout out. I see Rachel. Yeah, but for anybody else, I was just thinking about like my own personal story, how I got into the tenants union because like I was also a U of A student, graduate, and I just remember going through that time. I graduated 2017, and I had classmates of mine that living in their cars, couch surfing. I was one of those. And really just that transition from living at home where I didn't have to worry about the burden of being a tenant to, you know, going into that, you know, new phase where it's like, well, I can be a tenant or I could be homeless, right? Or, you know, be lucky to, you know, be able to depend on some family, you know, for emergencies here or there. But all that to say, um, like when we kind of get to that point, we're not really adequately prepared, you know, in high school, or otherwise, you know, to really understand what is kind of expected of us. I mean, um, what we hear about or see, you know, in terms of landlords, you know, or what we hope for, you know, from somebody that could be, you know, thought of as a potential good landlord, right, is somebody that charges us reasonably, um, actually repairs stuff and is nice, you know. Um, but you know, for us, if we ever, you know, have any hardship, we can't make the payment, you know, it's really up to, you know, that landlord to determine whether we're going to continue to have a home or not, right? And not only that, but you know, if we have that eviction, that determines whether we can get future homes. And so um, I think that, you know, as tenants, you know, in the tenants union, we consider anybody that doesn't control their housing as a tenant, right? So it's not just renters, but it's also people that are still paying their mortgage to the banks. It's also people who are homeless, because you can look up, there's a federal statistic that for every $100 that rent is increased, there's a 10% correlated increase in homelessness. Um, and I mean, we can't see ourselves as separate from people that are living on the streets, um, because that could literally be us if we miss a paycheck. That was me, right? Like I had to change jobs. It took me about an extra 3 weeks to get a full paycheck, and I wasn't able to continue renting at the place that I, you know, raised my daughter for 4 years. And so, yeah, I mean, that's something that, you know, yes, she's right here with me. She knows that story. Um, but yeah, I guess so. I wanted to bring it up, you know, to that point because we always hear about it being like, you know, this is a housing crisis, housing shortage, but it's really a crisis of tenant rights. It's a crisis of power, and it's a policy choice that, you know, the landlords and the real estate lobby, which is the most powerful, largest in the country, are making. Right? There's 17 million vacant homes in this country, and you know, maybe about 1 million people who are actually homeless. I think it's somewhere between uh upwards close to 800,000, but it's there. And really the bottom line there is that there are places for people, right? There's 2 luxury units for every one homeless person. um and also, like, if we just look at the kind of disparity on you know, salary, right? Like the average landlord makes 1.5 to 3 times the national salary, right? And that's, you know, might make some people say, well, maybe I should be a landlord, right? But if you look at it, you know, you can look in the news, they're saying, you know, a third of millennials are going to be renting their whole life, right? In the last decade, there was, you know, a doubling of the number of middle-aged tenants, right? So like more and more being able to become housing, you know, stable, secure is becoming, you know, just out of reach for so many people. You know, there's a question like, will I ever be able to not have to worry about where I'm gonna live, right? Like if I, you know, have to choose between, you know, groceries and rent, you know what I mean? So getting to my point as to like why I'm here and speaking on behalf of the tenants union is that like we only have power in our numbers, right? In organizing. And the way that we need to do that is as tenants, building by building, block by block, making sure that every person who is a tenant has a union and that every union is fighting for what everybody is needing, right? Which is homes for all. That's really just like the basic, guarantee that everybody should be able to unite around. And so I guess I could just wrap it up here that, if you are a tenant or you have, people in your life or close to you or friends, anybody, neighbors, that you want to support in unionizing, listening is the first part of organizing. You have to really know what main issues people have. And for a lot of them, it's just that, I can't afford to live, right? Like, everybody's struggling, and it's struggling for somebody else's profit, right? That like we are so normalized to accept that, we have to pay a lot of people over 30% of our paychecks, some up to 60%, right? Towards, renting a space that we'll never own. And so, yeah, like once we have that unity around those issues, we connect and build our organization so that we can actually be acting in a collective, organized, coordinated way. And so, one of the things that we're going to be focusing on as the tenants union is pushing for like a tenant bill of rights. We're looking at that right now, talking with our other tenant union comrades across the country, as well as some friendly political, allies that we have. But also we're looking at places like, I don't know if anybody saw the Rio Nuevo kind of forum yesterday that Worker Power held at the Worker Power Swag, that is focusing in on Rio Nuevo, where they're wanting to take, public money that, comes from our sales taxes and give it away to, rich developers for a luxury hotel, when we could literally be demanding to the city who owns the land that that hotel would be built on, that say, no, we want our public money to be going towards permanently affordable social housing, right? Like, these is just basic things, like instead of, you know, saying that they're addressing, people's needs, we could actually be addressing the housing crisis there. So, yeah, those are just a couple things. So, connect with us, become a member. If you want to organize your building or your block, reach out to us. If you have questions about, your legal rights, you could reach out to us. Even though we're not lawyers, we can help direct y'all to, emergency eviction legal services, which the tenants union organized with a coalition of other groups, helped to get passed for the county back at the COVID pandemic time. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any more questions. I'll put some of the links to those resources in the chat as well.
Thank you so much, Nick. That's amazing to hear about everything you guys stand for and what you're working on over there. Okay, so I'm just gonna go, it looks like we only have a couple questions here in the chat. So if you have anything else you want to add in, attendees, please just raise your hand. Or if you promise to be respectful, you can just unmute yourself. First question I see here, it looks like it's for Councilman. Is there a pending rent control initiative, or is it something you were mentioning that will be worked on in the future?
I'm hoping that I think that from what I understand, the biggest impediment to moving that initiative forward has been working out the language. I think there's just some tough questions to ask on how we remember getting an initiative passed statewide. Definitely requires it requires threading the needle into something people can agree with. especially when it comes to rent control. Though I think that I think that's the piece, but I think we can keep it simple and just say, you know, the the legislature would be forbidden to uh, preempt any rent control decisions that municipalities or towns want to make. And so home rule and self rule would kind of be invoked there. And so I think that would be the best approach rather than try to legislate by initiative with the specifics like, okay, this is all you can charge based on this algorithm. I think that that can get lost to the voters. So I think that's probably the biggest impediment right now. I'm under the understanding there's several different groups kind of working on it and wordsmithing it, but I don't think any group has really taken the lead yet.
Okay.
One thing on the Moxie Hotel, and you know, he mentioned the Rio Nuevo GPLED and the TIF, which are the tax financing stuff. We don't write a check to any rich investor ever. What we do is if say we're collecting $100 a year on a property, and a company wants to go in and develop that property, and it's in an area that needs some help. What we'll do is say, all right, you develop the property. Now the property taxes that would have been go from $100 to $500. We'll let you keep $200 of it, and that you can build that $200 savings for 5 to 7 years in your finance plan. And so it's not an actual giveaway. The other thing is that in this case, Moxie is a Marriott product that's basically a youth hostel, and that's the product that it is. And Marriott is a unionized hotel in the 11 states that allow hotel workers to organize. So I think there's more to it. I'm not saying that tax giveaways and incentives are good things all the time, but I don't think they're necessary. Sometimes it's a tool you can use, especially when you're in a recession. Right now, I'd say that this one, it may not be necessary. It may be some overkill, but it's on a case by case basis that we vote on this. So I wanted to make sure that that was clear. I totally understand the folks who don't want to see us give money away, but if we're giving something away better to get something instead of all, better to get part of something than all of nothing is basically kind of.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Derek, thanks for joining the call. Feel free to unmute yourself.
So I have a question for Councilman Cunningham. First, I want to thank you. I'm actually one of the commissioners on the Disability Commission. Your name constantly comes up as someone who actually puts forth action to help us out. So I just wanted to commend you for that and thank you. But my question has to do with the TEP rates increase, the proposed increase. And they released a statement that my interpretation was they are not making enough money and they have to charge more money to support people who can't afford their bills. But the last SEC filing showed that they were profiting almost $300 million. So I'm not really going to cry for them not making as much profit. But this idea of putting the weight of everything onto subsidizing people who can't afford electricity and with that housing, how do you feel about that? I know you put forth the idea of community power, and I know that their contract is up for renewal.
So the franchise agreement is, I think that their company retains a lot of value if that franchise agreement is in place. So I probably won't support renewing of it. I also think that the system that we have, hold on, let me step outside. My wife and I are both working right now from home. Sorry, everybody. That's why I was outside.
I'm going through the same problem right now.
That's why I was at. The other piece is that what we need to realize is that the system we have isn't really sustainable. We have a for-profit, foreign-owned company that's setting the rates. They're only doing $567 million a year in O&M. They're doing $1.5 billion a year in gross sales within our region, and they're only paying another $160 million a year in debt service. They say they're putting another 300 or 400 million into reinvestment, but I'm going to call bullshit on that. I just don't. The math isn't mathing for me. So for me, I'm in an adversarial relationship with TEP right now. I haven't really minced words that like when we went through the Project Blue piece. My biggest thing was I just didn't trust the Project Blue people or TEP because I didn't think what they were telling me was reliable. And so that's kind of the fight we're in. So at my motion yesterday, we're going to intervene in the rate case formally with the attorney general and the county attorney and the county attorney and the county. We're also, I think we're probably going to at least sniff around and see if Oro Valley, there's 4 other jurisdictions in Pima County, the town of Oro Valley, the town of Marana, the town of Sarita, and and both tribes. So we're going to ask all of those if they want to intervene with us. So those are the things we're going to do. But at the end of the day, the model we have is not sustainable. I've proposed tree. It would be a city of Tucson utility that would provide solar and battery services off grid to neighborhoods. So a neighborhood or an HOA could form something called a municipal improvement district, which is allowable under the state constitution and through our city charter. And you'd pay a stipend in your property taxes. The owners would pay that that lived in that area, and that would build an nanogrid or a microgrid for that area. The city would then deed or grant easement and right of way on our land remnants. We own land remnants all over the area that is Tucson, Arizona, within the city of Tucson. We own like parts of right of way, like alleys, like remnants from a drainage project, leftover land remnants from a development project. We own land remnants where we could put connexes with batteries that would be self-cooled. They already have models like this in Australia and in places in Europe. And I think it would be something cool that would be unique for Tucson. So those are some things we got to do, but we've got some other challenges in Tucson as well. But the Tucson Renewable Energy Enterprise is something that I've been advocating. TREE is the acronym, and I think it'll be something pretty special. If you noticed, housing assistance and urban strength, my other one that I talked about earlier, is HAUS, HAUS, like a house. So I'm big on the acronyms, but yeah, tree and house. Let's go. Treehouse.
Sounds great. I love it. Okay, let's talk about big corporations for a sec. And Nick, I know you threw out a statistic earlier, so maybe you have one. Does anyone know what % of rental homes are owned by corporations? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this number has gone up a lot in recent years. And I guess that could include, right, like Airbnb kind of takeover of cities.
Yeah, so I mean, there's different kinds of like data we could look at for like rental homes owned by corporations. The largest kind of I guess transfer to like big private equity firms of like the most affordable housing is among mobile home parks, right? So I believe let me see. It's something in the area of like tens of thousands um, of mobile home parks have been purchased by private equity firms. But then there's also, these big, like Blackstone, others that are like trying to really move in on single family homes too. I'm sorry, I don't have like numbers on me right now. But really it's like this corporate like really move to profit as much as they can off of real estate or off of our homes, right, is driving more of this crisis. And so yeah, I just that's just a quick
Yeah,
thing.
that sounds
If I can find some numbers, I'll share some. But
great.
yeah, offhand, I didn't have any on me right now.
Either of you, your thoughts on Airbnbs in general? I know that's become a lot more popular in Tucson. And do you think, and I can assume yes, do you think that that is a reason that maybe our rents have gone up so much here in Tucson? And just what are your thoughts in general about, Airbnbs kind of taking over certain communities here?
So for us, I'm actually the one that introduced the idea of having the lineal tax where hotels would be taxed lower than short-term rentals because the short-term rentals are killing our housing stock. That's another reason why I want people to consider hotel incentives because we want hotels to do the tourism. We want single-family residences to be housing, permanent housing for folks. And so that's kind of those are some of the pieces that we're running into. As far as large corporate entities owning and being landlords, they shouldn't be. But that's probably a discussion at the national level. But I can tell you this, even on the commercial side, private equity groups that own property in Tucson are the worst property owners we have. Absentee property owners are the worst property owners we have. And I'm going to give you an example. For about 9 years in my ward, Kmart closed. Remember when Kmart closed in like 2000, I don't know, 14, 15? Does anybody remember? All the Kmart's closed. So well, you guys are all, none of your kids went to Kmart. But when I was a kid, when I was your age, Kmart was that actual thing, I promise. And so Kmart closed and the Kmart was vacant. And it was like I had to hire a private detective. We did our own research out of the office and we found out that our Kmart was owned by 18 different corporations throughout New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, and had over 273 shareholders. And we wanted them to either adaptive reuse into housing or at least activate the property because it was becoming blighted. And it wasn't until we threatened eminent domain that they actually flew down and did anything. They basically ghosted us for 3 years as we kept reaching out. So when you have a central corporation managing people's lives from Chicago in Tucson, Arizona, not knocking Chicago, love the town, but that was just the first big city that popped in because I love Chicago. But my point is that your landlord shouldn't be in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Your landlord should be someone that is your neighbor. Your landlord should be somebody, if you're going to have a landlord. And my last tenant actually bought my house. I put him on a rent to own thing. But that's kind of what my dad and I had rentals my whole life on and off. And that's how you treat people. And if we had folks understanding that the people business can still be profitable enough, we'd be in a lot better shape right now. But I think there's a culture of people that they've decided that, how much wealth you accrue is more important than anything else. And I think that's just such a horrible way to look at life in general. And so that's kind of, I guess, my message to you guys today. When I was in UA Dems, my dad was actually serving in the legislature. Yeah, I'm a big time Nepo. I get it. I don't know. But the bottom line is that it was cool to be active. It gives you a step up in understanding how policy is shaped and, be involved in ASUA. For those of you that are on the Greek side, be involved in IFC. That's fine. But make sure you're involved in some of that policy making, the residential life board. Those are all policy making that you're making at the ground level. And you can really translate that experience into policy making at a macro level. So that's some of the stuff I'd say to you guys today. I think it's just terrific that you're meeting. I'm happy to do this live. I hate this Zoom stuff. No offense to everybody. So I'm happy to do this live, but good luck to all of you in your college careers and your future endeavors and whatever you'd like to do.
Thank you. Okay, we have a few more questions here. Marla's asking, why not turn huge apartment complex and trailer parks into condominiums?
So when you can do that, and there's step to do it. A lot of that is you have to reparcel and replat each apartment. It was way easier to do several years ago, but now there is a construction defect clause in that the state legislature passed. I've lobbied the governor multiple times to get rid of it, but the construction defect clause is one of the impediments to building townhomes and condominiums right now. To go around it, I propose that the city act as a voucher or an underwriter for an insurance project that does higher density housing in a townhome or condo situation. We're trying to see if that meshes with the state constitution, but that's a great question because I don't get that a lot, but the conversion and the cost, there's some pieces to it that aren't as easy.
Okay. Is the state
Oh,
legislature?
one other thing about that though, I'd actually say adaptive reuse is a better one. And that's where so there's a lot more people who work from home or work remotely or work in shared office spaces or work in those like labs now. When I was all your age, you lived out your dream because you graduated college and you got your own cubicle. Nobody does cubicles anymore. You get to, work from home or work remotely or work off your phone. It's actually way better. But there's all this commercial office space that's been pretty much abandoned in the United States. So I think those are where you're saving in mobilization costs, you're saving in soft costs, you're saving in materials, and those are adapting and reusing those buildings into housing. I think is a better move, especially in Tucson. We have multiple office buildings that I'd love to see converted to housing. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's all right. Could the state legislature regulate corporate ownership of rental homes in Arizona? I believe that they can, but do you think it's realistic during a time like this?
Well, we've got to flip the house. So we've got to at least get to 30-30 and we got to get some folks elected. So here's this is what it's all about right here. This is full circle stuff right here. I was in a primary 4 years ago. Okay. A young woman named Lisa Nutt ran against me in a primary race. And, I was fortunate to get reelected by, I don't know, 60 points, whatever it was, doesn't matter. Lisa Nutt stayed in the Democratic Party, didn't get disenfranchised, and wants to run an LD 17. And I'm going to support her. And this is a person that ran against me. And so that's why Democrats do what they do, because it's a team sport. We support each other. We got each other's back. And I think Lisa would be a fine legislator in LD 17. I think she can win that seat. If we flip that seat and hold both those pieces in 17, and then there's another 2 districts in Phoenix that I like, I think that Kate Brophy's old district, the Republicans thinks everything's going to be hunky dory over there, but I think we can win. I think we can flip that seat too. And if we can get that piece, then yeah, there's a lot of things the legislature can do that it can't do now. And so if we can do those 2 things and get Katie Hobbs reelected, we'll be in a really good place as a state.
Sounds like there's oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of jump in and go back a little bit on, both on the corporate, regulation and also like Airbnbs, type of thing, because, also just to kind of, we already have a pretty good idea of like the corporate takeover of housing, but, just one of the numbers that I found, and kind of looking into that was that, since like just before the crisis, on the subprime lending in 2008, like 7 million single family rental homes were acquired and added by corporate landlords in a basically like a 1-to-1 relationship with the number of families who lost their homes due to foreclosure, right? So like these corporations literally capitalized off of a crisis that they created, forcing more people to be, unable to actually be homeowners and to rent for, you know, potentially the rest of their lives, right? When it comes to Airbnbs, that's like another iteration. And then I think Councilman Cunningham, you know, was kind of right on in saying that, you know, it is driving more of you know, instability in the housing market because I mean, I know a number of people who live in a short-term rental that like part of the year is an Airbnb, and so they're only able to get, you know, a few months of a lease, and then they have to try and find another place. They're displaced again. But you know, it does things like, you know, drives, you know, gentrification, right? Like where who is going to really want to settle down into these neighborhoods for, you know, a short period of time, right? Like if we're looking to have community and looking to live somewhere and, you know, have our families and everything like that, like we want to hopefully have somewhere long term. But you know, if they're only you know, taking up, you know, these shorter term deals because it makes them more profit, then they're going to get, you know, people that themselves you know, aren't really invested in making our communities better, right? So like it's also not going to be the people who can actually afford, you know, to take on those prices also. Um, and I know that there's other tenants unions who have um, organized for stronger regulations against Airbnbs and short-term rentals. The one I'm thinking of, you know, if folks want to look into it, is the Honolulu Tenants Union in Hawaii, because of how much the tourist industry, you know, affects their housing. And so, yeah, if folks want to look into that, that's an option to, you know, see kind of a what's being done. And then I think like um, just in general on like standing up to like these corporations, we've seen a bit of you know, I feel like it's right now it's still like slaps on the wrist from our attorney general, Chris Mays, which I'm really glad and I'm really grateful for what she has been doing, like in terms of suing 9 corporate landlords, including local corporate landlords, like who have large, you know, portfolios of homes that they're renting, for price fixing, price gouging. I'm sure y'all have seen that in the news, right? With the AI real page software. So they're literally colluding to get as much money out of all of us as they can. And so I think it's kind of coming to a point where it's like, you know, there are enforcement mechanisms that, you know, the state could do, but if we don't have the people power also to try to push those further and really enforce them, then, you know, they're gonna really think that they can just get away with whatever. Like one of the buildings or one of the slumlords, you know, apartment complexes that we were organizing with, you know, tenants at in South Tucson got, you know, a cease and desist letter from the attorney general after we had encouraged, you know, tenants to, you know, take one route, which is, you know, filing complaints because of the uninhabitable conditions, right? And so they sent the cease and desist letter, but it's like, you know, what are we going to make sure that translates to ensure that people not only have housing but have safe and dignified quality and affordable housing, right? Yeah, I just want to say, like, we can't depend on you know, the system as it currently exists alone. Like it's kind of like when people always ask us about, you know, doing, you know your rights kind of presentations. It's like, well, you know, our rights as they currently exist are in terrible slant and favor for landlords, right? They're not for, you know, tenants because they weren't written by tenants, right? Like, and so we can know them, but we have to always be pushing for more of what we actually need and deserve, right? Like we still don't have, right to counsel, even though we have, like the emergency eviction legal assistance. That's, a limited, based on, how much you make, and only in specific, the eviction situations. We don't have relocation assistance, right? Like if you have to leave because, your ceiling's caving in because of mold or whatever. We don't have protections for ensuring that habitability. Anyways, yeah, I'll just wrap it up there. But yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, there is an area allegedly off Grant that has been designated to relocate the unhoused people in Tucson.
Yep.
Someone is just asking you to address that and
Sure. The tiny houses and the tiny housing stuff and the tent stuff. It's a really weird, this is more of talking about unhoused, which is not mutually exclusive to housing. But what I'll say is that this is a pilot program with 25 tents. It's designed to house women and non-binary. It's set up through HCD, which is our Housing Community Development Group. They are our de facto tenants' rights group. We try to help people as much as we can. Nick talked about the Bruno case. Mr. Bruno talked about the Brian Bowers case, which just finished. We were one of the first offices to advocate against that guy. He wasn't a very good landlord. And so anyway, but yeah, so the tents, we're doing these 25 tents. My issue on it is that we're spending like 450 grand on 25 tents. So I'm a little, I'm a little worried that we overdid it, but let's see if we can get a stand-up program and get it right. I think it's really hard to regulate tent villages. I think that some of the pieces to that, some of the philosophies that go into situations like that can be taken from some of the other things they've done. The other part is that what we're finding is some of these tiny homes are can be cost prohibitive, where you're paying like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a unit, along with land purchase, along with soft costs. So it becomes quite a enterprise where adaptive reuse can change some things. I saw some other questions in the chat. I want to try to get to each one of them. Hold on, let me get to the right screen. I saw a question in the chat about the opt-in program in Cochise County. I think that's a great program. I think Pima County doesn't have something similar, and I also think Cochise County is a little bit better fit for it in a rural area. But it's absolutely something cool that can be done, and something that I'd advocate for if it came up. Someone asked about the program that Senator Gallego and I served in the military on the same anyway. And so we go back a ways. He's a good guy. And his program is it's a Democratic Party program for first time buyers. And by the way, first time home buyer programs are nothing new. They've had different iterations over the last 50 to 60 years. I think they're totally important. And I absolutely support them. What I'll say is that, again, we got saddled a little bit with this we incentivized realtors for like 30 years to, if you were the realtor got paid based on the final sale of the house. So if you were representing the buyer, you made more money if the buyer paid more. It was just a completely flawed system. And because of that, we've had some incredible changes in how realtors do their job. So that's a good thing, but it was a very interesting dynamic that would basically cause real estate prices to be inflated. And during the meltdown, when a lot of you were still, still pretty young, a lot of my friends who were, I was 34 at the time, and I'd say about half of my friends that were homeowners lost their house in that time. And so when that happened, it was because more and more people were just borrowing money. And so we've got to be careful about allowing the economy to be over leveraged. So those are some things. I don't know. I think first time home buyers will probably be the bet. If we have an expansive first time home buyer program, which caters to folks between the ages of like 25 and 40, that could really probably help a lot with housing over the next 30 or 40 years. But there'd be some unintended consequences to it. Whenever you increase ownership numbers and whenever you increase areas, you do get pieces of gentrification, not total gentrification, but the home values in that area will go up.
Great. I saw Alex's question here. I think what would probably be a little more helpful is if I just send a follow-up email to everybody with, ways you can get involved, whether you are a student on campus or just a community member in general. So I'll be sure to send a follow-up email to everybody. But if you guys have any quick ways you can get involved, especially with you, Nick, if people should just send you an email if they want to get involved, or kind of how it works to join TTU. That would be great. But yeah, I really hope everyone on this call has learned something. I know that I have, and I'll send an email with resources for all of you.
Hey, you guys, head down to headquarters on a random day and look out for Alex. Walk a precinct. We still have 3 candidates going up for election in the city council races, and then it won't stop. It's non-going. The cycle begins for 26 in the legislature, and I'd tell you to walk precincts and knock doors and learn how to knock. If you've ever knocked doors with me, it's hilarious. It's a lot of fun. So just get involved, and you guys are the future. And I really, thanks for letting me be your councilman. It's been the ride of my life.
You're the best. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
and sorry, Emily, the TUSD override that I think it's Prop 414, I believe. We have canvases going out actually this weekend, so I will send info for that. If you guys want to go knock doors as soon as Saturday morning, that would be really amazing, and I'll send you the details for that.
And as a guy who worked for TUSD for like 10 years, I feel absolutely horrible that I left that out. And Em is one of the best organizers in the state. You guys can learn a lot from her.
Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, no, I mean, quick shout out TUSD. I also am a transportation bus driver over at East Yard. So I seen on your profile you work at Gridley. So shout out, we're right next to each other. But yeah, definitely we want support from folks to pass that override. I know it's a tax, but it's needed, and we're like definitely wanting to support our students, our families. As far as Alex's question, sorry, I'm trying to like find a bathroom for my daughter at the same time. Like how can students get involved, right? So that's actually been something that we in the past with the tenants union have tried to focus on, especially because for students, and also particularly for like RAs that live at the dorms and work at, as university, employees at the same time. It's like the university is the landlord and the boss, which is a really scary thing for a lot of folks. And also like, it's definitely like a kind of, a precarious situation. Like if you find yourself, struggling with the schoolwork or, doing something that, could potentially get, that housing in jeopardy, like especially when, students had wanted to participate, in the movement for Palestine. There was a worry about their housing security there. So, if you're wanting to organize, like among, other students in the dorms, other workers, let us know, because that way, y'all can have more of, a say in like how your housing works, right? Like, if we think about, unions are where, we really start our democracy, right? Democracy in the workplace, but also at home, right? With tenants unions. So yeah, become a member. I shared the link in the chat. You can also reach out to us at our email, which is just info@TucsonTenantsUnion.org. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, Alex, well, but to talk more with anybody.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you all again so much for getting on tonight. Like I said, I learned a lot and I hope that you did too. As I always say on these town halls, here at PCDP, we're always available. We really want to foster open communication. So all of you have my email. Like I've said a million times, I'll be sending all of you an email after this. So feel free to just stay in contact with me. Let me know other town halls you want to see, follow-up questions you have from this evening. But yeah, thank you so much for getting on, and thank you to our wonderful speakers. And thank you for everything everyone on this call is doing for our community. I know it's not an easy time. So thanks for being here. I appreciate it, and have a great night.